Soul Simmers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Builders Games series that we've been doing on this channel. I will make sure to do a little introduction on what the Builders Games are, just in case you haven't seen any of my previous videos. However, if you're into speed builds, I highly recommend checking those out as well, because I've been doing this series where I've been building different places in the world, so if that's something that you're into, then feel free to check it out. But for those of you who've never heard of the Builders Games before, the Builders Games are a Sims competition hosted by Simmers for Simmers. They do it in different seasons, and every single season or period of time is like a different theme. And this season's theme, we're on season 5 right now, is a world tour. So that's why we're building different kind of places from different places in the world, because we're basically traveling around the world, so to say. Every single week is a different place in the world, basically meaning we have a new challenge every single week. We started with 30 builders. Every week the builds are judged and then 5 people get sent home. And this was the build before the finale week, which is a very big, exciting thing, of course. I'm not going to spoil until a bit later in the video whether we made it to the finale, yes or no. However, this was the build in the semifinals. We were with 10 people left, which was obviously a little bit scary, so I really wanted to make sure to do this build justice and make something really cool. You might be wondering what the heck I'm doing here, so I'll give you a little background information on what this week's build is. So the prompt was that we got to pick between India or South Korea. So again, it was a week where we got to pick. So not everyone did the same destination, which was actually kind of pretty cool. But I actually opted for South Korea because I don't know why, but that just immediately inspired me the most. And the prompt was to build an intersection somewhere in Seoul. So we had to go look for a good intersection that we could use. And it needed to at least include 7 cars, and it could be maximum on a 50 by 50 lot. And let me tell you, that 50 by 50 lot was hard, because creating kind of like a cityscape situation, you need a lot of space for that. So I was struggling, honestly, with getting that right. I was really like fighting the urge to go to a 64 by 64 because I knew that we were not allowed to, but it was hard to do it on a 50 by 50 because a lot of things that you need in a cityscape need some space, but I think that made it ever so challenging, so that was really fun to do. So my first thought when I thought of intersections was one of those intersections with like a million scooters kind of driving around. I do think you mostly see them in Indonesia, although when I was traveling in China, I did see them as well. I think scooters in general are far more normal in Asian countries. So that was like my very first thought when I thought of an intersection. Then I was like, what about one of those intersections that you can also see in Japan with like the really big walkways and a million neon signs? And I was like, oh, that could be interesting too. So I kind of started to brainstorm a little bit. And then something popped into my head of when I was in Shanghai in 2016, there is this area where they have this huge roundabout that is kind of like floating above the road, which is a bridge for pedestrians to walk so that they don't actually interfere with any of the traffic. And it's a really cool cityscape or like city design thing to do, because you don't disrupt the flow of traffic while still giving people that are walking around the city a good place to walk. And I was like, what are the odds? Maybe they have something like this in Seoul as well. So I just kind of threw that into Google. I literally typed in walkway above road in Seoul, and I was like, maybe I'll find something. And I was lucky because I stumbled upon Seolo 7017, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I'll make sure to link their website in the description box down below if you ever want to look at the original, because it is always fun to kind of see the comparison between what I'm building in The Sims versus what the actual thing looks like. I'll make sure to share a lot of information in this video about the actual build, but obviously it is always nice to also have the visual, so feel free to click the link that's in the description box down below to get a little bit of an idea what the actual one looks like. Something else that I really wanted to do this week is kind of compared to last week where we did the Egyptian restaurant and I tried to create an exact replica of the restaurant. For this one, I was like, let me take some inspiration from the original design, use some of the features that are really, really prominent, but also kind of give my own twist to it and make it a Sims version of it. So instead of trying to recreate it exactly, that was also would have been probably impossible considering that we only had a 50 by 50 lot and the original thing is huge. It is such a long walkway that I don't think we could have pulled that off in The Sims. So that is kind of the difference between earlier weeks where I really did a exact replica. Although with the Svalbard build for Norway, which by the way, thank you all so much for all the love on that video. It actually blows my mind that so many of you love that build so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But actually with that one, I also kind of gave my own twist to it. And that's also what the judges complimented me for and what they really liked in that build. So I was, you know what, in the semifinals, maybe I need to just fall back on that and kind of redo that, because I think a lot of my strength is in that part specifically of taking some inspiration from IRL things and then translating it into The Sims. So when I saw this, I was immediately obsessed. I was like, this is perfect for what I want to do. So I shared it with my Twitch community. I was like, this is the website, this is the pictures that we're going to use. And then one of my moderators in my Twitch chat, because this was built live on Twitch again, said, hey, was it on purpose that you picked something that was made by architects from the Netherlands? And I was like, what? No. So for those of you that don't know, I'm originally from the Netherlands. I still live here, by the way. So it was really fun to realize that I somehow managed to find something all across the world, literally, in Seoul, that I fell in love with, that perfectly fit the assignment for this week, that turned out to be designed by people from the Netherlands, and not just any place in the Netherlands, but literally the city that I live in. The architecture firm that designed this is located in Rotterdam, which is the city that I live in, which is absolutely wild to realize that somehow I just felt like this was a match and that it was like far away from home, but also really close to home. It just made me feel like it was meant to be for me to build this thing. So that's what I did. I started building it, and I would like to tell you guys a little bit about the original build. Located in the heart of Seoul, a true planned village has been realized on a former inner city highway in an ever-changing urban area, accommodating the biggest variety of Korean plant species and transforming it into a public 983-meter-long park, gathering 50 families of plants, including trees, shrubs, and flowers, displayed in 645 pots, collecting around 228 species and subspecies. In total, the park includes 24,000 plants, trees, shrubs, and flowers that are newly planted, many of which will grow into their final height in the next decade. Seolo, the Korean name for sky garden, translates to towards Seoul and Seoul Street, while the 70 and 17 marks the overpass's construction year of 1970 and its new function as a public walkway in 2017. The pedestrianized viaduct next to Seoul's main station is the next step towards making the city, and especially the central station district, greener, friendlier, and more attractive, whilst connecting all the patches of green in the wider area. Since the project was won by MVRDV in May 2015, the main challenge of the Sky Garden has been to transform the existing overpass into a public garden, overlaying a matrix of Korean flora onto the 16-meter elevated steel and concrete structure. How to transform a 1970s highway into a sky garden, and how to change the daily life of thousands of people who cross Seoul's city center every day. From the start, MVRDV engaged with this need to change the forgotten and existing infrastructure into a green symbol that will become the catalyst for a greener quarter of Seoul. Together with the municipality, local NGOs, landscape teams, and city advisors are committed to accommodating the biggest diversity on flora in strictly urban condition. New bridges and stairs connect the viaduct with hotels, shops, and gardens. It is safe to say that I was extremely inspired by this design and just the whole concept of it, kind of like using the old for the new. And I don't know, for me as a person living in a big city that also values this concept of trying to repurpose existing buildings, it is something that I think from a sustainability perspective and just city design perspective is mega interesting. So this and reading everything about this build immediately made me want to make it in The Sims. And you can kind of see it come together in the speed build now. There is a lot of things that we've done. We've used a lot of things from debug and stuff. And I would like to tell you, apart from just the general construction and some background information, I would like to tell you some things about the building process and things that I struggled with that might have been like a little bit of a challenge. Of course, the raised platform that you saw me make in the beginning of the video was a little bit of a headache. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to use round pieces in that, because round pieces in The Sims to this day are relatively broken. So I genuinely struggled to get that right. I think that took us half a stream just to get the platform in. But once it was there, I was really happy with the shape, and I think it really looked good, and it gave us a lot of space on like basically the second floor of this build to work with. So I think in the end it worked out well, but the raised platform was definitely a headache situation when I was trying to make it. I also wanted to make sure that everything felt full and alive, but also not too cluttered, because obviously this is a big street. This is a big main street in a big city. So you probably wouldn't have very narrow streets. I tried to make everything feel like broad and open, but also I wanted to make it feel like it was a busy and buzzing area. So I kind of tried to find the right balance between making it feel alive but not making it feel too cluttered. And that was actually quite hard to do on a 50 by 50 lot, because I wanted to add so many things in and there was so little space to work with, literally. In the end, you actually saw me do this earlier with some of the cars, but also with the debug buildings. I ended up sizing down a lot of things to kind of sneakily add more into this than originally would have fit, because if I had kept the cars and the original buildings at the original size, not all of this would have fit on this lot. And I think that's also something that one of the judges said. They said that I made the lot look so much more spacious than a 50 by 50 actually is. Even though a 50 by 50 is a huge lot in The Sims, they were like, you fit so much in that it looks far bigger than just a 50 by 50 lot. And I actually really took that as a compliment, because I think that was one of the struggles that I faced while doing this build. So the fact that the judges noticed that I made so much into a small space was actually pretty cool to hear. Something else is that the original walkway has a very interesting blue light to light up the walking area, so they don't actually have a lot of light posts. So you can see me placing a lot of light posts on the streets right now. So the bottom level is very well lit by just normal light posts, but the walkway is actually lit. There's kind of like an underglow, a blue underglow on all of the plant pots. The best, if you want to see what it looks IRL, is to check out the website link that I put in the description, because it is really hard to explain, but I tried to recreate that as well. And that also took some kind of fiddling around to make sure that the underglow was good and visible underneath all of the plant pots. But I do think that adds a lot in trying to recreate this, or like the IRL thing, and doing it justice in The Sims, is having that underglow, because it's such an iconic part of this sky garden. Something else is that this is, I think, genuinely is the build where I've used the most debug and life edit items ever. I think this is also one of the builds where I used the least normal items in The Sims. Obviously this build is very, very decorative. It's definitely not necessarily meant to be played in. You could place it somewhere, I guess, as a park for your Sims to visit. There are a couple of stands that should be functional, and it could be a fun park to play in, I guess. But the thing is, I definitely did not build it for function. It was very much for looks and aesthetics, but I ended up using so much debug and live edit, and it was wild. Every single time I went into the live edit menu, I kept finding more things that I was like, oh, this would fit as well. Oh, this would fit as well. Because obviously The Sims uses a lot of the life edit stuff themselves to give the world some life. So it makes sense that we used it in this build a lot too. But that was just fun for me to realize that I don't think I've ever done such a heavy build when it comes to the live edit and the debug. And that's also, I think, a good reminder for all of us, for every single simmer, if you're watching this video. It is nice to challenge yourself to do things like this, like challenges like this, because it genuinely allows you to find items in the game that you might not even realize were there. And there are definitely items in here that I will now be using far more often, simply because I know they are in the game. Some more things that are interesting to share with you about this build is I tried to incorporate a lot of things, like either specific Korean things or just more general Asian things, to kind of make sure that this didn't look like just any cityscape, but that it actually really tried to incorporate the Korean culture. So some of the things that I did is, one, I noticed, for instance, whenever I visited China, but in general, whenever I see video footage or other people posting about traveling to Asia, is that generally most of the city areas are really clean. So I made sure to pull a lot of bins around, because I can imagine that that would help in keeping the streets clean from like clutter and trash. Something else is that Mahjong is a very well-played game in Asia, and mostly it is played in public areas and parks where people can kind of play with each other. So I made sure to make a little area underneath one of the ramps where there is a lot of play tables. There, I also added some chess tables. So again, that's one of those things that if you were to plop this down as a park, you could technically use that as a functional aspect of the park, I guess. But I really like the idea of a communal space for people to come together and play games. Also, there is a later point in the video where you will see that I add like a little kind of a road construction where there might be some sort of a sinkhole or something happening. This city is also not perfect because I realized basically in any city there's always some road work happening somewhere, so we obviously needed to incorporate that. That's, by the way, not specifically for Asia, but just in general a cityscape. Also, Korea is famously known for their bubble tea, and since we actually have a boba stand, I made sure to add it underneath the red kind of market stall. I added the boba stand from high school years, so you can get a bubble tea if you actually visit this lot as well. Another thing that I added is under one of the ramps, I added a lot of yoga mats because Kimodo, which is basically the Korean version of Tai Chi, is very often practiced in parks as well. And since we don't really have that in the game, I figured yoga would be the closest thing to kind of resemble that in The Sims. Something else is that I tried to use mainly Asian themed food stalls. So the two food stalls I added in the back are both ramen or like some sort of a Korean barbecue, or at least that's how I interpreted it. Kind of those stands, I added them. Just in general, by the way, street food is a really big topic. So I made sure to add plenty of stalls where you can buy fresh produce or just in general some food, because I think getting food in the streets is so much more normal than, for instance, in the Netherlands where I live. Another thing is that I noticed that the roads really use a combination of like stark white lines and very bright yellow. So I tried to incorporate that as well. So on my roads, you can see that I use the lines that actually light up at night as well. And then for the yellow, I use the fences, like the very low fences, but I made sure to use that color combination of the stark white and the yellow. Something else that I did is that in Seoul, there's actually a lot of high-rise buildings and they are mostly offices. So I kind of tried to recreate that with a little parking lot in the front and also the food stalls and stuff. I kind of envisioned that people for lunch would come down and then get some food at the local market, stuff like that. Something else, like I said, the upper deck is mostly lit with the blue light, which is very cool to see. So make sure to stick to the end of the video because that's where I actually will be working on that part. So there's not a lot of street lighting, but downstairs I obviously made sure to light up the area well. And also something that I added, which was a fun little detail that we kind of stumbled upon by luck, is that in the game there's these little bamboo stands where there is small little yellow or red like signs hanging from the bamboo. And I looked it up, and actually in a lot of places in Asia as well as in Seoul, they have these things called wish trees, which is a place where people leave little colorful written notes with their wish in hopes that the wish will come true. So I made sure to add that in a couple of places across this build as well. I think that is what I would like to tell you about this build, so I will let you enjoy the rest of the speed build with some nice music. As always, I made sure to add some pictures of the final build in the end of the video, so make sure to stick around for that. I would absolutely love to hear what your favorite part of this build was. Also, it is up on my gallery, so if you want to download to play with it, my gallery ID is just Rosannatxt, and it is called Seoul7017. And I would love to hear what your favorite part about this build is, and if you do play in it, let me know what you are missing or what you would like to add or anything like that. Of course, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the speed build. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I make a whole bunch of Sims content, and don't forget to check out all of the other videos in this playlist where I do much more builds from around the world. And let me know in the comments down below if that's something that, even though the Builders games might end soon, if that is something that you would like to see more. And then of course, I left you guys in suspense long enough. Did we make it to the finals? Yes, we did. We actually ended up on 4th place, which means that we were in the top 5 with this build, which means that we are currently working on the finale build. We, as you're seeing this video, if you're watching it on the date that it comes out, we have one stream left where we're gonna work on the finale build because we actually had 2 weeks to complete it. We're building the Shire from Lord of the Rings, so if that is something that you're up for but you can't make it to a Twitch stream, feel free to also subscribe to this channel because I will be releasing a speed build for that too. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye everyone!